And we are back.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy Brent, aka Backpack B, back at it with episode 9 of Behind the Edge, almost to double digits. If you're new here, welcome. I'm super pumped you're here. And if you like this video, consider slashing that subscribe button. It really helps out the channel. We can hang out every week and obsess about knives. It's a good old time. Today we'll be doing a deep dive on a new offering from the BRS E-volve lineup called the EON. It's a titanium integral flipper that piqued my interest as soon as I saw it announced. So enough chitter chatter. This is Behind the Edge. Let's get after it.
Just look at this knife right here. Synergy of form and function. The EON is a titanium integral flipper made with top-of-the-line materials. It has stellar fit and finish out of the box, and it was designed by one of the most exciting designers working today. Let's break it down. If you're not familiar with BRS, otherwise known as Blade Runner Systems, they are a company that's made a name for themselves by bringing some of the most popular balisongs to the market. Their balisongs have become a favorite in the flipping community thanks to their quality, balance, and high level of performance. As of late, BRS has made major moves in the folding knife space with their E-volve knife lineup. In my opinion, the EON is one of the standout designs in the E-volve series, and there's an obvious reason for that. That reason is that this knife was designed by Isham, a prolific knife designer that has designed an amazing body of work over the past couple of years. If you're into knives, you probably recognize most, if not all of these pieces. Isham is a popular designer working with companies such as Civivi, Kaiser, and We Knives. He also kicked off his own production line called Isham Blade Works. Weighing in at 4.47 ounces, the EON has a handle length of 4.5 inches, a handle width of 1 inch, and a handle thickness of 0.52 inches. It has a blade length of 3.625 inches, a blade width of 1.125 inches, and a blade thickness of 0.16 inches, giving the EON an overall length of 8.25 inches. The EON features a flat ground modified drop point blade, M390 steel, a ball bearing pivot system, an integral titanium handle, a tip up milled titanium pocket clip, a frame lock, and flipper tab deployment. Let's take a closer look. Starting with the show side of the handle, we can see the confident sweeping lines created from the milling on the handles. This adds a modern feel to the knife's overall aesthetic while functionally aiding the ergonomics of the handle. Here you can see the lanyard hole that mimics the design of the thumb hole, and also the subtle billboarding of the E-volve logo. I'm a fan of the E-volve branding. I think it's modern and a bold mark. It's good to go. Also, notice the pivot hardware, which also contains the stop pin, which is underneath the little tab right there. Moving along to the spine, we arrive at one of the prime features of this knife. Here you can see that this is an integral design, meaning that the handle is one piece of solid titanium. I love the chevrons milled into the spine. I think it's a really cool design element. Next up, the lock side of the knife. Here you can see the titanium milled pocket clip. I love how the clip echoes the lines on the knife and lines up perfectly with the lock bar. Here you can also see the steel lock bar insert, that in this case is on the outside of the lock bar. I would imagine it's hard to get the steel insert on the inside of the integral, even though that's possible. I think this is an interesting approach. Let's check out the centering, and that is a strike right down the middle. Love to see it. Also check out the subtle stonewash on the spine of the tang. It's a nice detail. Okay, let's check out the action, and yeah, wow. That thing rockets to the open position with authority. The detent is strong with this one. Take a look at the knife as a whole. It really is stunning. I love the stonewashing on the primary grind that's echoed on the spine of the tang. I think the confident lines throughout the design are gorgeous. The handle and blade have a nice synergy. The knife feels very balanced. Let's check out the thwack again, and holy crap, this thing is dialed in. There's absolutely no blade play. The lockup is very strong. The lock bar comes in at about 30% of the tang. And of course, the integral nature of this knife is stunning. There is a simplicity to the spine of the handle that offers a nice break from the milled lines on the side of the handles. Alright, one more time, and boom. That action's amazing. The detent is strong but not overpowering. Alright, it's time for size comparisons. Here it is next to the Kershaw bare knuckle in 20 CV. It's a very similar size to the EON. These have very similar blade shapes and they are both flippers. Next up is the control knife. This is the Spyderco Para 3 in CPM S30V. You can see that the EON is a good bit longer than the Para 3. Okay, next up is the Rake P801 in 14C28N steel. You can see that these knives have similar length handles, but the EON's blade is a bit longer. Next up, I had to throw another Tucson in there as always. This is the TS27 designed by Night Morning. The TS27 is a bit larger in size with a larger blade than the EON. Moving on, this is another Isham design. This is the Civivi McKenna, and it's a much smaller size than the EON, but you could see Isham's design ethos shining through on both of these pieces. And finally, onto another Civivi Isham design. This is the Plethoros, and again, you could see a lot of Isham's aesthetic shining through on both of these pieces. In fact, these are very similar knives. The thumb holes, the handle, the blade shapes. These by no means are the same, but you could see a common thread between the two. And I think the Plethoros is a great budget option if the EON is priced too high for your liking. Alright, moving on, we've made it to pros, cons, and conclusions, starting with the pros. As always, I'm going to try to keep it as concise as possible. The first pro is that the fit and finish of this knife was great out of box. The blade was centered and the detent and action were both dialed in. It came razor sharp with no blade play. The blade's selective stonewashing is gorgeous. The integral handle is amazing and it feels extremely quality. The blade's flat grind is superb. It's very slicey even though the tang is a tad thick. The next pro are the materials. You are getting amazing top-notch materials when you purchase this piece. The M390 blade is great. It's classified as a premium super steel with excellent edge retention and good corrosion resistance. The integral titanium handle is, like I said, the standout feature of this knife. It's milled from one piece of solid titanium, which gets rid of any weak points that a multi-pieced handle may have had. Next, the design is top-notch. Isham has been putting out a ton of great work, and this is no exception. While Isham has certainly developed a reputation for intricate and outlandish designs, the EON has a more simple and functional design language that still references his design ethos. The silhouette of this knife is beautiful. It feels modern and sophisticated. The next pro is price, which may seem weird because this piece currently costs $289, and that's a hefty price for a knife. But if you look at what this piece brings to the table, you'll start to see it from a different perspective. You're getting top-of-the-line materials, stellar fit and finish, and a design from one of the most sought-after designers working today, all culminating in an integral flipper. That's just unheard of at this price point. Most integrals are above $500 due to the amount of machining and milling that goes into creating a handle out of one piece of titanium. Okay, let's move on to a couple of cons that come with this knife. The first one is not a major con. I was on the fence about where to rate this. The ergos on this knife are good, but in my opinion they could be better. Overall, the handle does feel good in hand, but due to the sharp lines that I think are important, if not essential, to this piece's aesthetic, some of the edges feel a little bit sharp. A little bit more chamfering could have gone a long way. There's also a sharp spot at the end of the handle next to the lanyard hole that sticks into your palm when deploying the blade, and it can be a tad annoying. Just a nitpick, I think. The next con is a personal peeve of mine, and that's the thumb hole on this knife. Let me be clear. There is 0% chance that you can Spidey flick this knife open. The thumb hole is too close to the pivot and you won't get enough leverage to make it happen. In short, the only way you can deploy this knife is the flipper tab, and for me that's a bummer. I love when there are multiple ways to deploy a blade and it feels like a missed opportunity. The final con is that there's no over travel stop for the lock bar. Basically, you just need to be careful that you don't overextend the lock bar when closing the knife because there's no built-in mechanism to stop you from overextending it. And that's really the end of cons. There's nothing too bad here. Moving on to my final conclusions, I don't know if you can tell, but this piece, in my opinion, is an absolute grand slam. While there are a few minor cons, the pros of this piece outweigh them substantially. You're getting a perfect storm of design, quality, materials, and functionality all in an integral knife that is priced super competitively. This piece will be a permanent addition to my collection, and if the cons don't offend you, I highly recommend you pick one up.
That is a wrap. If you're still here, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate the support. It's your boy Backpack B, and I am out. Deuces.